Stand by for manual transmission in 3, 2, 1. 07 Commanders, Manus Dextra here with episode 2 of my career guide for new commanders. So just to recap, in the last episode we covered basic bounty hunting strategies and talked about a few third-party tools and resources to help you get started in the game. In this episode, I'm going to share my no engineering build for the Diamondback Explorer, and we'll cover the basics of exploration. We'll talk about why you're going to need to do at least one long-range trip, whether you want to or not, and I'm going to show you how to make the most money while doing it. So let's take a look at my DBX build in Coriolis. This build will cost you between 12 and 13 million credits depending on where you buy. Between Ohm City Shipyard and Lazutkin Terminal, LHS-20 has everything you need at a 15% discount. I'll also post a link to the build in the description below. With slight modifications, this build is suitable for exploration, passenger missions, smuggling, and any situation where you need a stealthy ship. Starting with core internals, there's no change to the hull. We're using a 3A power plant in a Class 4 slot because the 3A gives us all the power we need and will save a lot of credits and mass. Remember, less mass equals more jump range. For thrusters, we want 4As, the best we can get at this point. Whether you're trying to land on a high-G planet or boosting away from a nosy System Authority ship scan, we need power and speed from our thrusters. Speed means life. Learn it, love it, live it. For exploration, passenger missions, or smuggling, we'll need good jump range too. Most of the time, we want to go as far as we can in as few jumps as possible, so we want a 5A FSD. For life support, Class D is almost always the right answer. If you're in the bubble with a canopy failure, the 7.5 minutes of air we get from a Class D module is enough time to get help. And if we're 5,000 light years outside the bubble, the 30 minutes of air we get from a Class A module will not be enough to save us. For the power distributor, we downgrade to a 3A for the same reasons we downgraded the power plant. A 3A power distributor is big enough to do what we need, boost engines when necessary, but small enough to save on credits and mass as well. Likewise, Class D sensors are fine for our needs here. For optional internals, we want a business class passenger cabin in the first Class 4 slot. While I was testing this build, I made about 10 million credits doing VIP passenger missions. Even if you're interested in exploration, you can find passenger missions to points of interest thousands of light years away from the bubble. Such missions can add a goal and a nice bonus to keep you motivated while you're out in the deep black exploring. Of course, you can switch out the passenger cabin for a cargo rack if you're smuggling cargo or you just don't want company while you're out exploring. The next Class 4 slot gets a 4A fuel scoop because with fuel scoops, bigger is better, at least until you get up to Class 6 or 7. And we can't mount anything bigger on this ship. In the first Class 3 slot, we have an auto field maintenance unit. This is exactly what it sounds like. A piece of equipment that lets you make repairs when you're thousands of light years away from a station. Be warned, this unit cannot repair hull damage, your power plant, or a fully broken canopy, but it can repair vital modules such as your FSD. If you're planning to stay inside the bubble, you can exchange this module for another passenger cabin or a cargo rack depending on your needs. As you might have noticed by now, this ship does not have a shield generator. Instead, we're going to depend on stealth and armor to keep us on the right side of the void and away from the rebuy screen. If we're in danger, running silent and boosting until we can high wake away is the plan, and thicker armor will help to buy us the extra time we need to do that. Keep in mind, shields do not work in silent running. Besides hull and module reinforcement packages, We're also going to need an SRV hangar so we can gather engineering materials on any planets we find. And the most important piece of equipment for making money while exploring, the detailed surface scanner. We will use this to map valuable planets for some really big exploration bonus credits. We'll talk more about this in a couple of minutes. Moving on, we'll leave the hard points empty. Discretion isn't just the better part of valor, it's the only option with this build, especially if you plan to play an open like I do. For utilities, we'll take a chaff launcher because firing chaff never hurts when the shooting starts, and we'll take lots of heat sinks. These will let us stay in silent running for an extended period of time without taking any heat damage. This is very useful for evading scans when smuggling, and evading target locks and weapons fire if we get interdicted by NPC pirates or murder hobos in open. Finally, the wake scanner is not essential, but it will help us collect data that we'll need later when we engineer our FSD. Before we jump in the cockpit, let's talk about why you'll need to make at least one 5,000 light-year trip. The answer in 2 words is Professor Palin. If we pull up his page on Inara, we can see that one of the requirements to meet him is attain a maximum distance from our career starting location of at least 5,000 light years. So, even if you have no interest in exploration, you're going to want to unlock the Professor for his thruster upgrades. And since we're going to have to make this trip anyway, we might as well make some money while we're at it. So here's the thing. If you do this right, it will take some time, but when you're done, you'll have the hard part of unlocking Palin out of the way. Plus, you will have hundreds of millions of credits and exploration data to sell, and you will be well on your way to elite ranking in exploration. And if you really hate exploration, you'll never have to do it again after this mission. So let's take a look at payouts, and as always, I will put a link to this chart in the description as well. From the chart, you can see that the most valuable planets are Earth-likes, ammonia planets, and candidates for terraforming. These planets can be water planets, rocky bodies, and high metal content planets. And these planets will pay between 1.5 and 3.2 million credits each for a detailed surface scan. However, if you just are not ready to do a 5,000 light-year trip, you can still make tons of credits scanning planets inside the bubble using a tool like Road to Riches. With this, you just enter your starting system and it will generate a list of systems with high-value planets. Then you just fly to each planet, scan them, and sell the data. You won't get any first discovered by bonuses, but you can make millions of credits per hour this way, and you can do it in any ship, including the Sidewinder. Just be sure to fit it with a detailed surface scanner first. So let's jump in the cockpit and I'll show you how to actually find and scan these planets. So as I was saying before, if you want to use Road to Riches to find valuable planets to scan, and that process is as simple as, you can see right there it says copy system name to the clipboard. So you clip that one, or you put that on the clipboard. Then you just paste it right into the search box, hit the button, and if we were actually going to go there, all you got to do is hit plot route, and you would be well on your way. But as you might be able to tell, I'm nowhere near this place. So yeah, we're not going to be checking out this system. What I am going to do, however, is just show you how I would normally go out and explore. And we'll go ahead, since this route's already plotted, we'll go ahead and use this route, and I'll jump into a few systems and just show you how I survey systems and what you need to do to make sure you find all the valuable planets. But yes, so the first thing that we want to do though, if you're just going to go out and explore, when you're plotting your route in the galaxy map, you want to make sure that you have your filters set up like this. So you can see the only stars that I'm using to plot routes to are type A stars and type F stars. And the reason we're doing that is because type A stars and type F stars have the highest chance to have valuable planets in them. And that's namely planets, either Earth-like planets or candidates for terraforming, because that's really the only things that we're looking for, and those are the only things we're going to map for sure. But yeah, so we want to set our filters so that we're only using type A and type F stars, and then you want to make sure that you also have this option ticked which says apply filter to your route. So that means when we plotted this course right here, when we plotted this route, it calculated the route for us using only type A and type F stars. So anyway, let's go ahead and get going, and I'll show you how to survey some systems. Alright, so we jump into the new system, and while we're fuel scooping, we want to go ahead and fire off the discovery scanner. Alright, you can see up there in the upper right hand corner of the screen it says orbital plane established, 12 bodies. So the only thing on the radar though that you can see is the primary star that we just jumped into. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the system map, and I'm going to show you that there's nothing there. Even though the discovery scanner says we got 12 contacts, we're not going to see any of them until we look at them with the FSS, because this is a brand new virgin system nobody's ever visited before. So what we want to do is back out of this, and now that we're away from the star, because that's the other important thing, is when you open up the FSS, or before you do that, you want to make sure that you pull away from the star, because if you don't, sometimes the star will block your line of sight and you won't be able to scan everything in FSS mode. But since we're away from the star now, we can go ahead and pull up the FSS. Alright, so the first thing we want to do before we start looking for contacts is, if you notice here on the bottom where our tuner is at, you see these blips. So you can see each one of those blips represents a contact or a type of contact that we acquired when we fired off the discovery scanner. So you can see that we've got high metal content planets, we got rocky bodies, and if you look up here, rocky ice worlds. That's kind of disappointing, but it is what it is. So the rocky bodies and high metal content planets, those are interesting. We definitely want to find all of those. So when you first start out, you just kind of want to pan around the system and then look for those kind of pale blue dots that are flashing. So if we put our target finder over that, you can see that we're not locked on to anything yet, so we're going to have to move our tuner a little bit until we figure out what kind of a contact that is. Alright, you can see we just got a dotted circle there. That means we're getting close to it. And when you get a solid circle, that means you're locked in. At this point, you can zoom in to the target, and turns out there's actually two targets here. So one of these is probably the primary planet and the other one is a moon. But yeah, you can see, and we want to look at both of these. So both of these are rocky ice planets. And since we have a solid circle, all we have to do is hit our zoom button again. We'll zoom in, and now we've identified that planet. Unfortunately, that planet is worthless. So we're going to back out of that. But since we're here, though, we might as well go ahead and map this one too. All right, so now we'll zoom out and just hit our unzoom button until we're all the way back to like the top, till we're zoomed out as far as we can, and we'll look for more blue dots. And here's one. All right, so I got my target over that. Luckily, that one is not a rocky body, or we'd have a white circle there. So I got it tuned in. Looks like it's high metal content. So we'll get lined up over it, zoom in, and there it is. So for now, that's all we want to do. We'll zoom back out and look for the next contact. So there it is. That one's high metal content as well. Zoom into that one. So we got that scanned. And we'll just work our way through all of these. So I had to fine tune that a little bit. We got our solid circle. And you can see up there in the right top of the screen, we've got 6 out of 12 bodies identified. And here's a cluster of them right now. So we'll get in here again. You can see we didn't lock into a planet there because we've actually got 2 contacts here. So we just need to line up on these again. Zoom in again. All right. So we got that one identified. Let's pick up the other one. And we'll have to fine tune until we get a solid circle. Alright, so now we'll zoom out, and I'm pretty sure that's all we had in this at this level with these 2, so we'll zoom out again, and we'll check out some of these others. So, I'm not getting any circles here. Alright, there we go. Okay. Yep. Fortunately, rocky ice planets are not valuable. Here's another high metal content planet. Have a couple of these. Zoom into that one. Now, before we zoom all the way out, we'll go ahead and pick up this one too. Now we zoom all the way out, and we got one more. Yeah, we got one more contact. Get that one tuned in. Zoom into it. You can see the ship just told us that the system scan is complete. So we're going to back out of the FSS now. And now what we want to do is look at the system map again. So now that we've scoped out all these planets with the FSS, they'll show up in the system map. And what we want to do now is we want to tab over to the information tab, and we want to double check each of these planets. Okay, that's not interesting. That's not interesting. That's not interesting. That's interesting. Because you can see, if you look there, the part that we care about is the part that says the body is a candidate for terraforming. That's literally the only thing we care about. Because that means that planet is worth about 2 million credits if we want to go map it, and we're gonna go map it. But before we do that, let's go ahead and look at the rest of these planets, because generally if there's one candidate for terraforming, there's gonna be at least 2. And that's a candidate for terraforming. So let's check this one. That's not a candidate for terraforming. I already know these last 2 are not going to be, because I can tell by looking at them that they're rocky ice planets, and they're never going to be candidates for terraforming. All right, so the other thing too is you want to double check these moons. Chances are the moons are not going to be candidates for terraforming because they don't even have atmospheres, but they could be. Occasionally you will find a planet without an atmosphere that is a candidate for terraforming. But anyway, yeah, we've got 2 good planets here. So we've got this one and this one. And if we go map both of these, that's 4 million credits we'll get. Or actually, yeah, we'll get about 4 million credits for these 2 planets because they're high metal content planets. So what we want to do is just target them and go map them. Okay, so we're approaching the first planet we want to map. So the first thing you got to do is make sure that you're in the right mode. So you don't want to be in combat mode. We want to be in analysis mode. And then you're going to want to make sure in your fire groups you have your detailed surface scanner mapped to a fire button in one of your fire groups. You can see I've got mine on fire group B and I've got it on fire button number 1. Alright, so you can see the surface scanner on the right. It says we're out of range, and generally the range for mapping planets is going to be like 0.3 light seconds or so. You have to get pretty close, about between 0.3 and 0.5 light seconds before you can map a planet most of the time. So you just want to be cautious and make sure that you don't overshoot the planet. And generally, as long as you keep that bottom number between, say, 10 and 7 as you're approaching, you won't overshoot it. You can see right now the surface scanner on that side, it went from out of range to too fast. So as soon as it did that, I throttled back, and now it's now it says it's in range and we can go ahead and use the surface scanner. So the first time you hit the fire button, it's just going to bring you into this mode. And now if you look there on the lower right, it says efficiency target 6 probes. That means if we map this with 90% coverage or better using 6 probes or less, we'll get a bonus. We'll get an efficiency bonus with our exploration data, and this should be pretty easy to do. I'll show you how I do this, and if you have trouble with it, you can even engineer your DSS so that each probe will actually map more surface area. I've found that I don't really need that, but I'll show you how I do it. So this needs 6 probes. So the first one I always fire dead center on the middle of the planet. Now I take the other one and I go out to the side and I line up the circle where it's just right up against that dotted line. And the idea here is that the probe, if I can get it lined up again, is that the probe is going to slingshot around the planet and hit the backside of it. So we're going to do that. I'll fire that off, and before I fire off anything else, we're going to wait and see exactly where this probe lands. So you can see that I've got joystick number 4 toggles the backside of the planet. So if I press that, now we're looking at the backside of the planet, and we can see where the probe impacted. So we didn't get dead center of the back, but at least I know where it's at now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I want to put the dotted line in the center of the circle and fire off another probe. That will basically get the south pole of the planet, I guess, for want of a better term. Then we're going to do the same thing up here. And then normally what I would do is I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on this side. And at this point, we'll probably map the entire planet. But if we don't, if we don't, we'll still have another probe we can use. And see, we got lucky there. So we didn't even have to use that last probe. We mapped this in 5 probes, and we could have mapped it in 6 and still got the bonus. So yeah, it's not really that hard. You'll just, it just takes a little practice, and you'll figure out where you need to shoot the probes, to get full coverage within the, and still get your efficiency bonus too. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and back out of this, and we'll call up the system map, and that's our other candidate for terraforming. So we're going to go map it too. And you can see it's 2,000 light seconds away, so it's going to take a few minutes. It'll take a few minutes to fly there, but it's worth 2 million credits. You'll have to decide, if it's worth it to take that flight or if you just want to go on. I will tell you one thing, though. If you explore the way I do, and you only go to like Class A and Class F star systems, you'll end up having so many valuable planets that you will end up leaving some of them because of time. Alright, so we're approaching the planet. You can see that surface scanner says we're still out of range, so we want to slow way down and just gradually approach until the surface scanner changes from out of range to too fast. Alright, you can see it just changed to too fast. I'm going to get a little bit closer, but at that point all you have to do is throttle back, and as soon as you hit the fire button, we'll go back to the mapping screen just like we saw on the other one, and the first probe goes dead center. Second probe, I'm going to come out here to the side like this, fire it off, and I'm going to go ahead and fire off that one, and that one. Before I do anything else, we want to see where the one on the backside impacted.
Surface scanned by 50%.
Okay. So now that we see where that impacted, so again, I think I'm going to take this one and put it on this side, and we'll shoot it right there. That should get us 100%. You can see efficiency target is 6 probes, and we'll only use 5 to map the entire planet.
Surface scan complete.
All right. And that's how you survey a solar system. And like I said, if you do this, while you're doing that 5,000 light year trip to unlock Professor Palin, if you work at it, by the time you get back to the bubble and cash in your exploration data, you will have hundreds of millions of credits. So, the video went on a little bit longer than I wanted it to, but I thought it was important to include that walkthrough about, how to survey a star system to find valuable planets. It's not very intuitive, but once you figure it out, it's pretty easy to do, and you can make a ton of money this way. Currently, I'm on a trip that's probably going to be about 25,000 light years by the time I get done with it. So next week, one of my videos should be cashing in all of my data, and we'll see just how much it was worth. I would anticipate several 100 million credits, and if I'm lucky, I might even make it all the way to Elite with this single trip. But at any rate, after this, I'll have so much money, I will not know what to do with it. Only actually, I know exactly what I'm going to do with it, because once we get everything cashed in and get back to the bubble, the next thing we're going to do is probably buy a crate. I'm thinking probably a crate Mark II, and we're going to outfit it for paynite mining. And after we do that, we'll never have to worry about money again. So until next time, Commanders.
You will now be released from manual control. Mr. Dextra thanks you for your cooperation. You will now be released from manual control. Mr. Dextra thanks you for your cooperation.